these two curly braces. Here I have a variable and I have uh, these curly braces which defines an object inside which this is called as a property, which is like the key, and I am assigning a value to it. So it's just a key value pair. So first I have this operand key separated by a colon with its value. So its value is 10. So operand 1 is 10. And by separating it with comma, I can create another key here. So I have created another key called operand 2 colon 20. So now what happened is this calculator is an object. So because we are assigning an object to it, and this calculator now has two properties, which is operand 1 and operand 2. So yeah, let me just go line by line. Then here is an example of, we have this HTML element called playlist, which has an ID as playlist. So I'm doing something called as fetching a DOM element. So I'm doing that using a method inside document. So document dot get element by ID, so which is used to get the specific element called playlist, which has the ID, which has this as the ID. So once I do that, I'll be getting an object referring to that element. So I'll just print that here, doing console log playlist element, saving it. Yeah, when I open this, you can see when I hover on this uh, DOM element which I printed out, it's going to highlight the element itself. So that element is the thing which is holding that card that you see in the screen. So that's why it's highlighting the whole thing. Yeah. So now I just grabbed that element which we created from here, and yeah, that's what I am printing in the script file. Then there are multiple ways in which you can grab the elements. So one we saw here is by using a ID. Uh, ID. You can use this and pass the name here. Then we'll have uh, yeah, get elements by tag name. So we know that this is a tag. So anything that is starting with a angular brackets is called as a tag. So by using this tag name, you'll be able to fetch the elements. So in our case, that yeah, we have this div. So I just added an example to get all the divs in the page. I'm just printing that out too, saving it. Yeah, you can see the first console log is for the playlist element, that is from this line 8, and from line 10 the console log printed out this value where we have three variables. Sorry, yeah, three values. Those are the main container. We have added something called as a container which is wrapping around everything. Okay, so when I collapse it, this is, yeah, this is an option to collapse, where it actually compresses all the tags inside it and only lets the parent tag be visible. So yeah, when I expand it, you will be able to see all the tags. So since, yeah, this is one of the tags, div tags, and underneath that we have this another div. Yeah, I think that is all we have here. So we have a div container. Yeah, only these two elements at the beginning, but we'll be seeing much more in this. That's because initially when we print this on line 10, we have only two tags with the tag name as div. That's what we mentioned here. Get elements by tag name. You can see the difference in the name itself. So this is called get element by ID. It gets only one element. Whatever you put here, it gets only one element. You also can remember that id value can be assigned only once in the HTML. You cannot reuse that value again to any other element. So this is one of the example which with which you can remember it. Yeah, it's called as get element by id, and this is get elements by tag name. So meaning it's going to get multiple elements, not just one. So it's going to get multiple elements of tag name div. We got two here. So it is represented a in an array. So array is just collection of values. So you can have any values multiple times, and you will be able to refer to those values by using something called as index. So index usually starts with 0. So we have created an array here. It is just by opening a square bracket and putting your value in. If you want another value to be added, you can just type comma and add another value. So that's how it works. So here we have created an array of numbers, and we have 4 elements. So each item is called as an element. Usually that's how it is referred. So it can be referenced using an index. So if I want the first value, I can type array of 0. Off. So whenever I say off, it usually means it's going to be a parenthesis or square brackets. So it depends on the context of what you are using. So here array of 0, which means the first element, 0 is the first element. When I save this, I'll put EL for element. Yeah, you can see it says 12. That's because, yeah, array refers to this variable which contains an array, and it we are picking up the first value from this. So this is how you will take all the values 1, 2, 3, and it will be till 0, 1, 2, 3, because it's starting from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3 will make the 4 values. Here we have only 4. Yeah. So that is about array. Here we have a little bit complex version of an array. What we have done is inside an array we have added an object. So this is an object. We just took this object and added into this array. So this is actually really simple. This is an object which is you can consider this, yeah, with this variable name you can understand that it is actually a playlist. So the example which I took was from YouTube. So you'll see YouTube playlist, right? So on that YouTube playlist, you will be seeing a card just displaying certain information at the time when you visit that playlist. Not everything about that video is visible there, but only minimal information will be available. One is like the thumbnail, and will definitely have a title and the number of likes or maybe views. Yeah, this is just an example. So I've added likes here. So everything in this section, which is from line 20 to 22, is like a key value pair created inside an object because it is referred using this curly braces. So this is a single object containing three key value pairs. And so we saw here that if we need a different value to be added, we'll separate it with a comma. That's what this comma does. We have this comma on line number 23, which allows us to add another object into this array. So this is called as array of objects. So this is an object. Now we have created a similar object here, which actually is useful for us to create a playlist. So yeah, this object has the basic details of a card which we display here. One moment. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, we have only two playlists here, two cards here, details for two cards. So every object every object, so calculator is an object. If you want to access it, you can just type calculator. If I save it, you will see that it prints out that object itself. But if you want a specific value inside that object, like let's say 10, you have to refer it using its key. So copying that key and pasting it here, saving it. Once I do that, you will get the value here. So it says 10 because we have referenced this property inside this object. So that's by using a dot. So this is how you will do reference to an object's property. If you want the second one here, you can just type instead of 1, you can type 2. Now it's going to reference this variable instead of the first one because it's going to reference by the name. So this key is used to pick the value from this object. I'm saving it, and once I save it, now the value is going to be 20 because yeah, this is what we are seeing here. So that's how you will retrieve a value. There is also another way where you can, instead of a dot, I'm removing this. I'm adding square brackets here, and I'm going to add double quote or any quote. It could be single or backtick. I'm just adding a quote around it. Now this is another way to reference this variable. So both are like going to return you that value of 20. Saving it. Now yeah, still it works. There is no change. So this is just yet another way to reference that value. Yeah, yeah, that is it about objects. So as we saw here, this is a regular object, but in JS, array is also an object. It's also a type of object. So it also has properties. So basically, this value you see here, we referenced it like this, right? As array of 1. So this is also basically an object, and which is like sequentially adding elements to the indexes. That is done by the array itself. We are not taking part in that. So let me print playlist here. I'm saving it. Uh, Also, we have some junk which I can't remove at the moment. So I'm just adding a name here to understand. So we have this playlist. We have this playlist printed, and when I expand it, so this is an array, and you can see we have the 0, which is this. On the 0th index we have this value. We have this object. You can also expand that object and see the properties inside it. Then on the first index we have this value, which is song B. Then we also have this special variable called as length. So that proper, so now considering this array itself is an object, so this is just another property inside that object, just like operand 1 here. So operand 1 is property of this calculator. So likewise, playlist also has this property called as length, which lets us know how many elements are present in that array. So I can type dot length to get the length, saving it, and yeah, here you can see we have total of uh, 2 elements. That's what is printed here. Playlist length is 2. So yeah, after this we saw about what is a loop. Let me try to end this quickly. Yeah, we have this. I told what I plus plus is. So in our previous class, we saw that you can increment a value of a variable by using I plus, sorry, I equal to I plus 1, which has a shorthand called I plus equal to 1, which is just yet another assignment operator. And after this, if you only want to increase the value by 1, we have another shorthand, which is called as an increment operator, can be written as I plus plus. So can also be written as plus plus I. We'll talk about that later. This is called like uh, post increment and pre increment. We'll talk about this later. Yeah. So here we just need to increase the value by 1. So that's why I'm using I plus plus. So this is a for statement. This is a looping statement. You always need to most of the times you'll definitely lead loops. So without that, there won't be much of a use case. Even in this case, if you go to YouTube, you will see a list of things shown in the screen. Basically, that list is going to be dynamic. If you refresh the page, maybe you'll get a different list. Initially, it was showing you 10 items. Next time, it is going to show you 20 items. That's going to be dynamic. In that case, and also there are going to be more than one element. So if you just have one element, you can directly add it in the HTML itself. I can add it in the HTML here, like this. Comment all of these. Yeah. Here I'm adding this HTML here. And if I want another card for that playlist item, maybe it's for a different movie or something. So I just need to copy that and paste it again, so that you'll get another card, and you also need to change its value. But this is not something practical, right? If there are 100 movies in your website, you cannot copy and paste this all over again and again. So yeah, basically we have 70. Yeah, we have 10 lines for this. If you have 100 movies, you'll be having 1,000 lines. So you cannot have 1,000 lines in HTML. And this is just weaving this card. You also have other functionalities in your page. So this is not the right way. So what we have done is we have solved this issue by using JS, where we are dynamically creating this tag from these values. So these values are actually will be fetched from the server. So you'll have a server, and the server will be serving you these values. When you get these values, it is going to be an array, because you're going to have multiple values, multiple items, like the playlist item. And we are going to dynamically go through this list and create different elements in the page using that list. So for that, we will need a loop. So this is a loop, for loop. We also have something called as while. I haven't talked about it yet. First, we tell about this. In for loop, you'll have three statements. The first statements, these statements are separated by using a semicolon. Yeah, yeah. So these are the three statements. So in the first statement, we are actually initializing a value. So where we are having a variable called I. So I always like to use a proper name here, but I'm using I because it is like uh, uh, I would say it's like a rule of thumb. I would say uh, people started using this I and J for loops, uh, but when you are referencing something which is different, which is like not quite going to run like a loop, like not directly starting from 0 to a specific number, you have to have actual names for it. So but when you are using I equal to 0, so people won't be able to understand what I is. But the second statement which we will provide is actually a conditional statement. So in this condition, people usually have till which this loop should run. So currently I'm specifying it as 2. But if I specify a proper variable here, you'll be able to figure out what this loop does. So the main idea is understanding what that specific code does. So you have to make it more readable and not so complex too. So yeah. So here I've typed I less than 2. Let me come to, yeah. One more. We have this. Okay. Here what happens is we have these three statements. So the flow works like, first we will have this initialization happening, and this happens only once for the first time. Then this condition is checked. If this condition is true, this block of code written underneath the for loop is going to get executed. So going to be executed. So in our case, first the I is equal to 0. So this condition would be like 0 less than 2, which is true. Then this statement is executed, and that's what you see here. Since I is equal to 0, I'm printing the I itself, so we can see that the value is 0. And what happens is, after executing this code, it's now going to increase this value by the condition which we have given here, either increase or decrease. That depends on your condition. So we have this I plus plus. So when I do this, the value is going to get incremented by 1. So now it becomes as 1 from 0. So then it will again check for this condition. So if 1 is less than 2, perform this action. So now 1 is less than 2, which is true. So now again it's going to do this action. And then by doing that action, yeah, we have just printed the I value, which is 1 now. So yeah, again after performing this, it's going to go here and execute this statement, the third statement, which will again increase the value from 1 to 2. Now after increasing, it's going to check this condition, which is now gonna be 2 less than 2, which is, yeah, which is going to return a false value. So when something is returned as false in this condition statement, it's going to stop executing it. So you'll not see any execution after it. I can show you that by doing before and after for, saving it. So yeah, you can see this is before for and after for. So what happened is, it ran only 2 times. From first is 0 and second is 1. When it reached 2, the condition fails, and it went to, yeah, it stopped executing this loop and went to the next statement which is available. That is the console log. Yeah, that's how for loop works. So we have used this for loop in place with this playlist. Just going to uncomment this again. Yeah. Uh, so as I said, this playlist is yet another object. But yeah, array, it's of type array, but array is also an object. So that object is containing the property called as length. We saw that we have this length from the array. So we can use that length and dynamically go through that array and print the cards how much ever we want. I'm just going to comment this from the, yeah, I can just remove it. I don't have to add that here. So now we only have this playlist, uh, and it does not have anything. What we are doing is, we are taking the length of this playlist array, so which is 2, and then we are just iterating it. uh, so the process of going through the elements is called, in the array, is called as iteration. So here we are iterating it with using a for loop. So the value starts from 0, but instead of giving a literal value which is like 2 or 3, I'm using the value dynamically from this playlist, which I have assigned to a variable called playlist length. So now this variable is going to contain a value of 2, which is what we desire, and we have this statement which actually increments I by 3 instead of 1. So yeah, and we have this playlist element picked up here, which actually refers to this element. With that element, we can add anything into it. So that is just a, that is also an object. This is also an object. When I do print it like this, you won't be able to see, but we also have something called as console.dir, which allows you to see all the properties of that object, which is going to be like massive. You can also see the scroll bar. The one which we are interested in here is the inner HTML. So previously we saw about inner text, which just adds a new text into that specific element. But at the moment we are not trying to add a text. We are actually trying to add a HTML itself. So we'll add a HTML tag like this. So to do that, you'll be I've just yeah I've just written the tag inside this function, inside a string. This is called as the template string, written using a backtick, and we have this variable. So this variable is now going to refer to that specific element in that array. This element is going to be passed to this function. So now I can take the value from this object by using this name. So if I want the video title, I can say playlist item dot video title. That's what we have done, and we have just included that variable into this template string by using this syntax, where you can put dollar and curly braces. So now it can take an expression or a variable. So you can even put 1 plus 2 and work. And in the page you will see, you are seeing 3 because I've just added a expression here, which is totally unwanted, just to show how it works. So here we have added the total likes and the video title here. What I'm doing is I've created this function, and this function returns this specific value, which is of type string, and that value is returned after passing this playlist item. So how we pass that playlist item is, so now we have this variable called I, which has a value of 0. Now in the playlist, you can refer to the first element by using 0, right? So instead of 0, I'm going to use it as I, because I is now going to change dynamically, and we also have multiple values in the playlist, so we need to create a card for every element. So in that case, I'm dynamically going to refer to as playlist of I. Now first time when it runs, it actually refers to the first element, and the second time it should refer to the second element. That's how it should work. But here I've a, added the third statement as I plus equal to 3. So what happens is, uh, first time the value will be 0, and second time, or once it increments, now the value is going to be 3, because I plus equal to 3 means that I is initially 0, and now when you try to increase it by 3, it's going to be 3. So it's going to check this condition. The playlist length is actually 2. We saw that we have only 2 elements in the array. So since that now this condition is going to be like 3 less than 2, which is false, and that's why it did not get executed, and it went to the next step, and it printed out something down here. So by using this inner HTML property, I'm actually taking this value from here, which is returned after passing this playlist item, and when I assign it to this inner HTML, it's going to create me this HTML for me. So instead of I plus equal to 3, which is giving a wrong behavior, I'm going to type I plus plus and save it. Now we will be seeing 2 cards. So first, you can also compare the values here. First, we have video title as song A, and we have the second card with the video title of song B, and also likes as 100, and we also have first one with the likes as 300. So this is how you will dynamically create a HTML, which is like DOM elements. That's how it is referred in the page using JS. There is also one other way which is like complex. Yeah, this is the way. Yeah, okay. I'm already like 40 minutes into the class. Okay, so here we are actually creating these elements. Here, what I have done is I've just referenced all the elements inside a string. So, but yeah, this is like more straightforward, and but this is the proper way. People will usually follow this way where you'll use it in a string. At times you will be needing this approach too, because not everything that you do will need a string approach. So this is how you will create yeah, elements properly in JS. So where you can use something called as a create element function. So this function is again inside document. So I did not talk properly about document. So document is yet another object which is similar to the calculator which we have created. So document is having a function inside it instead of, so this is a property. This property can have any kind of value. It can be a string, number, yeah, it can be anything. But yeah, in our case, we have this document object whose property, sorry, uh, yeah, we have this document object whose property is create element, but that property is of type function. So we are calling this uh, function inside it, and we are passing the tag which we want to create. If I pass div, it's going to create an element called div. So every element is actually different. You should remember that. So div will have properties based on its type. So div will have specific rules. Uh, Only those properties will be available in div. Likewise, yeah, we have this image. So div will not have a property called source, because yeah, that's not how a div works. But for an image, you will definitely have a property called source, because that is where you will assign the URL to that image. So when you are creating a when you're creating an element, this is how you would properly do. So I've just added this image document dot create element and create an image. I've added the source by using image dot source. Now this image is also an object, but it's going to be of different like structure. So and also it will have a multiple properties, one of which is source. So you can see here the property, and it's going to take a value of string. We also have some description for this. So I can assign the URL from here. So we have this playlist item, and I've also added this file in my local, where you'll see it here inside the folder called assets. Inside images, I've added this image file. So this is what we are referring from this property thumbnail URL. So here from playlist item, I've added the thumbnail URL and assigned it to the image.source. Now this image should go inside. This is the reference. First we have this div tag inside which we have two elements, and the first element itself has a image tag, and the second element has two other span tags. So so if you want to create the same structure as this, uh, you have to do it in like a linear way. So first I've created this card, which is this top element. Then we have this video image element, which is the first child of this parent element. And for this video image, we need this image element. So I've created the image. Now if you want to put that image into the video image element, you can use a method called append child. So when I do video image, which is an object, and call this function called as append child, and throw in this newly created image tag, you now what happened is, yeah, this structure is actually created. So yeah, this is what we have created as of now. Then we also have this video info. Inside video info, okay. Yeah, okay, firstly I'm so we have this card, right? So no, here we had these individual items, but I've just added only the image tag into this item. Only then I'm trying to add this whole div, which is this part, into the card itself. So only after doing that you'll be able to get to this structure. So yeah, this is how we will basically arrive into a, HTML by using the inbuilt methods instead of passing as a string. That's how it works. But this, yeah, this is a complex way. This won't be needed in most of the cases. So yeah, we are going with this approach. So if I assign it to inner HTML, see, you can notice that I'm using plus equal to, because if I just do equal to, what happens is we are iterating it for 2 times, right? So for the first time, it assigns this value to inner HTML, and yeah, it creates a card. But then when you go for the next iteration, now again it's going to return a new string, but with the second value. So using these values, it's going to create this new string, uh, but it will be replaced. Uh, it will be replacing the previous value that is inside inner HTML. So that's why you are able to see only one card here. If I do equal to, so in that case, you have to do playlist element dot inner HTML equal to playlist element dot inner HTML plus the newly added card. Initially, its value will be empty string, which is like this. Yeah, this is what an empty string is. So initially, its value will be as empty string. Now, if you add it, if you reassign it, since it is running twice, it reassigns that value from the first iteration. So we don't want that behavior. We want all the cards to be added. So we'll put plus here so that each time it actually appends the value to it. It does not overwrite it. Saving, yeah. Now we have 2 items.
Just a minute. Yeah, guys, the meeting will get at 6:50. So we will have a short break for 10 minutes and we will connect at 7. So from 6:50 to 7, we will have a short break and we will connect at 7. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I hope all of you got that. So we'll rejoin at 7 after this. I think this is what we covered yesterday. So this was not like the recap. This is actually the whole session from yesterday. Okay, let's pick questions then. We just have a few minutes left. Does anyone have any question, or did you not understand something? Okay. 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 So we are actually GAS is actually vast. I can't. I'm not going to tell you everything in it. So we are only covering the absolute basics. Only then we will be able to uh, complete what we have ahead. It is also something complex. So I'll try to tell you only the minimum basic things that we need. If you need something much more complex, yeah, I can suggest you where to look and how to find it. Because we are going to have uh, React sessions in, I think, either next week or it will be on the second next week. At the time also we'll still be using JS, but it might look a little different. So if he needs some new concept introduced in that, we'll talk about it then. But yeah, we are not covering everything right now. So these are just the absolute basics. If you get these basics, you'll definitely be able to adapt to it. So if you're struggling in this, yeah, that's going to be difficult. So whenever you have a question, just ask it right away. And also, if you guys have like any other question, like how to do certain things, ask it. If we know that, we'll answer immediately. And if we don't know something that you asked, we'll look up for it and we'll get back to you with the answers. So this session is basically for you to learn.
Okay then. Have a great day. We will connect.